AnnieCannons' mission is to transform survivors of human trafficking into software engineers. And there's a lot that goes into that. That's coming from my background working in law and in tech, and also from my co-founder Laura's background working in human rights. So Laura actually studied human trafficking both in the United States and out of the United States for many years. And Laura's realization was always that the industry of anti-trafficking, if you will, is pointing at the wrong problems, or at least distributing need the wrong way. We're investing a lot in rescue, and we invest a lot in awareness, making people more aware that human trafficking is happening, but we're not investing in the thing that would actually change something, which is resolving the vulnerabilities that lead to human trafficking. And you could do that with early education for children from impoverished communities, or you can do that by educating survivors in the way that we do. Ultimately, it all gets at the same thing, which is creating economic opportunities for people who don't otherwise have them. So AnnieCannons began through Laura's realization, actually, that when a survivor was asked to participate in the anti-trafficking movement, she was often asked to stand up on stage in front of a room full of strangers and tell a traumatic personal story, and then asked to sit down. There's a lot of talk now about human-centered design or user-centered design, and it's greatly ironic to me that in all of this time, the anti-trafficking movement never thought to have a survivor define a solution. Unfortunately, we're seeing that happen much more now. There's a group called Survivor Alliance, run by a survivor named Min Dong from the Bay Area, and other survivor-led organizations that are standing up and saying, no, we need to be a part of this discussion, and that's awesome. AnnieCannons' contribution was saying, there are a lot of really bright people among the survivors who are living at shelters, and at best, in rare cases, we're teaching them to sew, to cook, to make jewelry. All of these really highly gendered skills for which you can't really make a good living and support a family unless you also have business skills. And nobody was teaching the business skills. But at core, all of that reflected an underestimation of survivors, an underestimation of women in general, thinking that, we couldn't possibly give them skilled careers. They couldn't be making six figures, but they can. And we've proven that they can. So what AnnieCannons is about is taking someone where they are, from a circumstance where they've experienced trauma, from a position where they've had somebody tell them their whole life that they're not worth it, they can't do it, they don't belong here, and saying, actually, let's forget all that. In this place, you belong. In this place, you will be heard. In this place, you matter very much, and we care what happens to you. So every single person in AnnieCannons, we make a lifelong commitment to. And we say, as long as you show up, as long as you remain trustworthy and you respect your fellow survivors in this space, you will have access to as much training as we offer for as long as you need it. If you need to leave class and come back because of some life circumstance, that's fine. But most importantly, we believe in your intelligence and your ability to make something useful and important that actually helps people. And we believe that you understand the real problems here that need to be solved, and we want to give you the power to actually solve them. We actually want to empower you not only to build technology that somebody else wants, but to know how technology is built and how it can make change in a way that allows you to create solutions that actually work for the problems that you care about. And that's what we're doing now. So we're seeing them not only ideating and building prototypes of social impact technologies, but also earning really, really solid incomes working for clients that we've sourced for them. We qualify individuals to take an increasingly complex work over time. So the first thing folks can qualify to do is data entry work. And we'll go out and source data entry work, and they do it. They can work remotely. We do provide a supported workspace for them where we provide childcare, we provide nutrition, and obviously our staff is there to help and tutor and work through problems with them. But we believe that the flexibility to sort of run their own lives and set their own schedules is also critically important. Our name is inspired by a woman named Annie Cannon, who worked at the Harvard Observatory in the early 20th century. Annie Cannon was deaf. But she was doing some work with a group of other women who were actually all mathematicians. They just weren't given credit for doing that. They were thought of like secretaries for the stars. So they would look at these glass plates, essentially negatives of what the telescope saw, and they were categorizing the stars all across the sky, so mapping the whole sky. And Annie actually realized that the patterns that she was seeing, stepping back for a second, when a star emits light, they emit light along a wide bandwidth. And that bandwidth changes depending on the chemical composition and life stage of a star. But nobody knew that at Annie's time. Annie noticed that these emission patterns had 12 distinct categories, and she named them. And then other women in her lab realized that those 12 categories reflected chemical composition and therefore life cycle, that the stars were actually being born and dying in a pattern that was repeated across the universe. Still, other women in the lab realized that those emission patterns changed based on stars moving away from us or toward us, and thus were the synthesis to the Big Bang Theory. So the ideas that came out of this lab of women whose names were generally unknown formed the fundamental basis for astronomy in the 20th century, and I will say as important, if not more important, than the contributions of even Albert Einstein. So this lab for us represented the potential of innovation through collaboration of the underappreciated. And that's what we wanted our organization to be about, was that collaboration and what it could create, not about something that happened in the past, freedom, slavery, or where you came from. It was about where you were going.